More to the Story is brought to you by
Advanced Business Systems. With over 27 years of copier and printer service offerings, ABS is a provider of managed IT, voice over IP phone systems, and electronic document management. Advanced Business Systems, proudly serving you and your business technology needs.
Hi, I'm Watertown Daily Times journalist Marcus Wolf, and on today's episode of More to the Story, we're taking you on a journey to Grindstone Island to see how its year-round residents anticipate winter island living.
We bought the house in '99 and moved over full-time 2006 when I started the mail.
And how long have you been a mailman?
12 years. In the wintertime, obviously, all I have is Grindstone Island. You need to, get across, unthaw your boat, shovel out the airboat, or get the snowmobiles running, depending on the day, and head across. In the summertime, I have 3 other islands plus Grindstone. Round Island, Grinnell Island, and Murray Island. So it takes approximately 4 hours.
Traveling through the biting cold waters, sometimes scraping against chunks of ice bobbing along the water's surface between the village and the island can last 20 to 30 minutes. Now multiply those trips by 6 days a week and feel the potential windburn on your face.
Obviously just for the mail. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't go every day. I mean, depending on what I need to do, it varies. If you need to shovel your boat out, if you need to chop it out of the ice, or if you need the airboat. And then I just go right to the front of the dock, front docks, walk up to the post office. And if I need to go to the store, I go to the store, but generally it's just the post office. Right back.
Hundreds of people once dwelled and worked on this island not even 100 years ago. Remnants of the farms they once managed, cheese factory and granite quarries they once worked, and schoolhouses they once attended still stand from a bygone era. Now, fewer than 10 people reside here. Individuals and couples who have to stockpile food, leave the island for work, and fix their own problems as they arise in lieu of hiring help that would have to come from the mainland.
I'm pretty self-sufficient, everybody over here. When it arises, you'd figure out a way to fix it or to overcome it. If you go to the store, you make sure you have what you need, because you don't want to go back. Especially if you're doing plumbing or something, I always buy 2, because you know how plumbing is, or anything, you buy extra. Just because you got over there that time doesn't mean you're going to be able to get over if the wind comes up. So you just want to be prepared.
As Brian said, you buy 2 instead of 1. So we have a supply over here, so you're always, big money is going out. November, December, I spend $800 right off the bat just for supplies. Toilet paper, paper towels, flour, sugar, I do all that.
This is Brian's wife, Patsy. She was raised on Grindstone since her birth.
Everybody on the island right now, except for one person I'm related to. So that does help. If we need a cup of sugar or a cup of milk and we don't have it, I call Irma or Brenda or Jay or Urch and Harry. A lot of people come in the summer and say, oh, I'd like to live here year-round. There's only 8 of us. A lot of people can't do it.
Despite all these additional hurdles island living poses, these residents thrive with the serenity they find in the community they have fostered.
I think it's peaceful. It's sort of like stepping back into time. It's like living clean a little bit, living off the land. You feel a sense of pride and, hard work. It's not easy and it's not cheap living over here year-round.
Mrs. SLATE and her husband Harry live less than a mile down the road from the Parkers in a home adjacent to the cliff overlooking the river. They raise about 100 cattle on hundreds of acres of farmland to butcher and sell grass-fed beef. Next to their house sits a walk-in freezer packed with boxes of steaks, chops, burgers, and ground meat they sell.
In the fall, we typically buy a couple of local lambs that we butcher. We buy a couple of local pigs that we go to butcher. And then through hunting season, of course, the venison, the duck, the wild turkey, that's usually in the freezer. So we're pretty good on protein going into the winter.
The couple faces similar trials and tribulations as other beef farmers, like scaring coyotes away from their livestock.
There was 4 of them the other morning. That big one and 3 little ones. And Harry said he saw them coming down the hill and they were all fighting. He said it looked like the 3 little ones were picking on this big one or trying to, but they ended up coming right down and he shot them right by the tree out there, right almost in the yard.
Well, I'm just glad the coyotes didn't get any of your cow.
Yeah, or the dogs. That's why we're kind of thinking they're coming around, as they probably know these 2 little dogs live here. I didn't move over here as a hunter, but my husband was an avid hunter, and after the first year of realizing I can either sit home and be a hunter widow, what we call them, or I can join in the fun and spend a little time with my husband during the day.
These two face extra hurdles when trying to maintain their farming equipment. Should their tractor break down, Mrs. Slate said it must be transported off the island because a mechanic cannot travel from the mainland to make repairs.
Getting fuel and diesel over here is another bit of an issue. But we have the fuel trucks coming over twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring, to go around and fill everybody's tanks up. But if you run out, you're hauling it.
What do you guys do if there's ever an emergency? Either someone gets hurt or if there's a fire, what happens?
Well, you call the fire department and hope that normally you're just you're protecting a cellar because it takes a long time to get here. National Grid is tough. I mean, obviously you can't get a line truck here. And luckily we haven't had to have that. The last time we had some outages, they actually brought helicopters, or brought the crews over in a helicopter. They've been over on airboats before, but I mean, it's just what they can do by, you know, they don't have much equipment because you can't get over here.
We do what we need to do over here. Some people, I remember a fire down to RUSHO's. They had a grass fire, and there had to been 20 people that showed up with brooms and shovels to try to get it out, and we got it out before the fire department got there. So it's it's important. Everybody knows it's time. Anything happens over here, it's time.
Yeah, it is very neighborly over here. I mean, that's how it's always been. It's got to be like that, you know. Especially in the wintertime. There's only what, 6 of us, 7 of us over here, and we don't rely on each other a whole lot, but we can call on each other when need be.
This tradition of helping your neighbor has always been found on Grindstone. Former residents Sylvia Anderson-Schultz and Alice RUSHO PERON have been best friends since their youth growing up on the island. And while both now live south of Jefferson County for most of the year, they remain connected to their island roots.
You mostly were self-sufficient, but if you did need your neighbors, they were always there to help. I remember breaking my arm, and it was so windy. My father said, you know, it was going to be too painful for him to take me across. So her father took me over in the barge, which of course didn't matter. You got this big landing craft that goes through, you know, 40-mile-an-hour winds without any turbulence. So and her mother took me to the hospital to have my arm in a cast. You know, everybody kind of helps one another. It might not be so much now because there's more amenities and it's easier life, and people have, you know, other ways to, you know, take care of themselves. But, you know, we always helped, you know, one another. Even if it was just kind of to get together and have fun.
But she's right, you know, it's just back when everybody had a farm. My mother had a story where this Harry Slate, lightning struck a tree where all of his cows were, and it killed every one of his cows. And the next day, everybody gave him a cow from their herd. And the following day, everybody was only down by 1 cow's amount of milk, however much they measured that by. And they all went on. And Harry kept the cows, and so You know, I think you'd be hard pressed today for somebody to turn around and give you, here's a cow,
Yeah.
you know. So they did that and didn't really think anything about it.
Sylvia and Alice grew up together in the 1950s when dairy farmers sold their milk to the cheese factory. Their church held regular services, and children studied at the upper and lower schoolhouses until it was time to go to high school on the mainland.
In the winter, when we had to live in town, which is another thing, we ended up boarding with people, either relatives or people that would take the Grindstone Island children in.
It started in 8th grade, but we would go by boat back and forth until November 15th. And then we boarded from November 15th till April 15th.
Oh my God.
First day it was scary. It was really, I had no idea where I was.
No.
I managed to make it to homeroom, and then it was, I had no idea where to go.
Because you had to pass classes. I mean, we were in a one-room schoolhouse. Everybody was there. You knew everybody. You go to the high school, and it's like, who are these people? I mean, you might have had, you were riding with your island friends on the boat, but they were in different grades. So it wasn't like you saw them in your own classroom. And then figuring out where to go. Where is this room? Where is that? Fortunately, it was only one floor, so you know, it took, once you figured it out, but strange teachers, and we were very shy.
We were extremely shy.
Oh my God, were we shy.
The schoolhouses have since closed, the cheese factory is shut down, and one senior classmate stands alone as the final student from Grindstone to attend Thousand Islands High School this year.
It's my cousin's daughter, Emma. It's their senior year, so she's the last of the Mohegans. My kids crossed back and forth. It's unique, so that's why to me it doesn't. I've done this my whole life, so it's not any different.
It's a challenge sometimes. You know, you got to haul everything over here. Sometimes we call it Lug Island because you have to handle your groceries about 7 times before you can actually put them away.
No supermarket or grocery store exists on the island today, meaning year-round islanders have to stock up on food, toiletries, and other supplies from stores in Clayton or Watertown.
I remember my uncle coming and bringing my grandmother 100-pound bags of flour. And then we put it in a special box that was huge to keep the bugs and stuff out. And sugar, same thing, 100-pound bags of sugar, because everything had to be made by hand.
I learned how to can and preserve. My mother-in-law, you know, coached me along on that early on. And again, making bread, making pie crust, using, you know, just good old-fashioned ingredients.
Things have changed, obviously. Every generation comes change. And what people lived in the 1800s and then the 1900s, and then you get new things and life becomes better. And we really don't have to live life the way that our great-grandparents did, but was it anything more difficult for them, not knowing any different, you know? And they were prepared. And you knew what you were up against when you were there.
If it's such a challenge when you have so many obstacles, then why live out on an island year-round?
Because I love it. Just off the beaten path. I mean, look at the view. Where, you know, there's nobody around. It's quiet, and you just can't wait to get home. If you're on the mainland, you just can't wait to get back to the island.
Every day I find another favorite place. It's just a neat place. It's very quiet. In the summertime, you just jump in your boat and you go. In the wintertime, obviously a lot harder.
It kind of reminds me of the Waltons. It really does. We used to go take the tractor out and sing carols across the island. And someone asked me one time, who are you singing to? And it's like, well, we're just singing.
Life on an island in the winter isn't too different from the mainland. Like anyone else in the North Country, islanders enjoy their peace, home-cooked meals with friends and family, and the heritage they've created. They face a few extra hurdles that have become second nature, although it still takes ingenuity and endurance to overcome them. You have to prepare for anything the day might throw your way. On behalf of the Watertown Daily Times and WPBS-TV, I'm Marcus Wolf, and this has been More to the Story.
More to the Story is brought to you by
Advanced Business Systems. With over 27 years of copier and printer service offerings, ABS is a provider of managed IT, voice-over IP phone systems, and electronic document management. Advanced Business Systems, proudly serving you and your business technology needs.